Tonight, we're hearing from a Hollywood Hills man who was in that French soccer stadium when the bombs went off. At the time, he had no way of knowing it was just the start of a night of terror.
I think 35th minute into the game, I hear a big explosion. It was really scary because initially I thought it was maybe a tire burst or something, but the effect was so heavy that, I was like, hey, this cannot be a tire burst or a firecracker or something. It's got to be something bigger than that. But the game continued. No one really reacted. And then 5 minutes later, there was another explosion.
Like most everyone in the stadium, Johnny Begg didn't know it was anything serious. This is cell phone video of him at the match enjoying himself. But at halftime, he went out to get some fresh air.
I see dead bodies being carried away in stretchers, people coming into the stadium injured.
Still, the game went on. Someone told him there had been a fight, that was all. Then, late in the game,
I think we heard another explosion, third explosion.
That's when he decided to leave.
We were about a group of 1,000 people that were walking at the same time. And they started chanting the French national anthem.
He made it back to his hotel and learned the full extent of the horror. The city was on lockdown. He feared he would not be able to get home to the U.S., but he did make it home, badly shaken, heartbroken for the people of Paris, and with one hope for all.
We should spread love and, make sure that everybody loves and respects each other, spreads harmony rather than hatred.
And not only was he at the stadium, he had been at one of the restaurants that came under attack just the night before.
We're talking so many lives changed forever, including this Angelino just back from Paris. He was on a trip. It was a part business, part pleasure, and then everything would change.
Cell phone video taken by a Los Angeles man Friday night. The scene as Germany took on France. Then an explosion, the first of three from just outside the 80,000 plus Stade de France.
I was like, hey, something isn't right. Like, this can't be a tire or it can't be a firecracker because the impact is so huge.
Johnny Stagg of Los Angeles was with a Parisian friend. It was a last-minute decision to attend the game. He was in Europe for business. At first, stadium security wouldn't let fans out, but eventually they'd make their way onto the streets of this Paris suburb. They'd pass by bloodied victims, and the blaring sirens were everywhere.
It was a little park, so I told my friend, I'm like, let's just hide here so that no one can see. Because at that time, there's so many people, you don't know who's going to shoot you.
Johnny Begg is back home in the Hollywood Hills with this scarf from the game he'd purchased while walking in. Little did they know what was in store. Well, family in L.A. unsure as well as details began to unfold of the attacks in Paris.
Everybody was texting me, "Where's your brother? Is he okay?" Like, I had no idea what was going on.
Johnny and his friend would spend about an hour making their way on the streets. All of it so scary. Taxis and Uber were nowhere to be found.
We played hide and seek for an hour because there were people coming. We were hiding, trying to get into the corners, trying to make sure that we don't come in the limelight of anybody, because you never know who's there.
Wasn't the only one from Southern California to witness the chaos there. NBC4's Patrick Healy has a North Hollywood man who was also there.
Yeah, it takes a toll on you.
Fashion executive Johnny Begg back in his North Hollywood office after the frightful ordeal of the Paris terror attacks.
It's all still sinking in.
Begg was inside the Stade de France along with the French president and 70,000 others for the international soccer game with Germany. He heard what sounded like an explosion outside, but spectators did not react.
4 minutes later or 5 minutes later, there is another big, massive explosion. My heart trembled.
Begg said he walked outside and saw security personnel lined up sealing off the gates. Then he saw casualties.
And there were 6, 7 people that were bleeding, had blood everywhere, and they were being brought into the stadium. And then I saw security running everywhere.
Begg said at this point he had no knowledge of the attacks elsewhere in Paris at the nightclubs and concert hall, but his French-speaking companion was gleaning information.
She's like, hey, I'm hearing explosions and I'm hearing terrorist attack.
In search of transportation, he said they walked an hour trying to avoid crowds.
You didn't know who to trust.
Finally, he got an Uber driver to pick them up.
It's a scary experience when you see blood on the streets, when you see people, dead bodies lying around.
Begg was scheduled to fly out Saturday, and he did. He has an international company to run, but he said he plans to return to Paris soon as homage to the victims and a personal statement to the terrorists.
The purpose of these people is to scare us, so we can't let them win by getting scared.
In North Hollywood, Patrick Healy, NBC4.